So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is an overview of Teams Connect. My name is Johnny Lopez. I'm a principal consultant for a company called Core BTS. I'm a Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Certified Trainer. I'm also the president for the Houston Office 365 community, as well as the Houston Power Platform user group. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about, we're going to look at the Teams architecture. We're going to look at what type of channels that's going to be available in Teams at the end of this month as far as a preview goes. And then we're going to look a little bit about external collaboration. With Microsoft Teams Connect, Microsoft is making it easier for us to collaborate with anyone outside the organization. You can use the Teams full suite of collaboration capabilities with external partners from an Azure AD perspective, or the same way that we share external users as well. So this is going to share channels is going to enable people from different orgs to work together as one team in a shared space for a more structured, deeper, and longer term collaboration setting. So firstly, I always like to talk about what the Teams architecture looks like, so we know what we're talking about when we look at shared channels. As we all know, Microsoft has capabilities in Microsoft Teams that provides chat, collaboration, integration, connection with apps and workflows, meetings, and also calling as well. It's that teamwork hub in Microsoft Teams. To understand the capabilities, we have to look at messaging, whether it's one-on-one chats, group chats, and also channel messages. Teams Connect expands that to external participants, more streamlined and also more organized. With a collaboration perspective, as we all know, if you know what a team is, there can be an org-wide team, a public or private team. Within those teams, you have channels, and channels are grouped together for things like specific topics or general information that you can use within a team. You can also lock it down and make it more private, and also introducing shared channels, which will be in private preview. Public preview at the end of this month. It started private preview last July 2021, but that public preview is coming out at the end of the month. Just to illustrate some of the Teams architecture, this is just an illustration. I'm not going to go through every single point on this, but you have the Microsoft Teams services, and then you also have dependent services that Microsoft Teams work with, like SharePoint and OneDrive, Exchange Online, those different types of services that are in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem that helps teams and also is our pillar of Teams to make collaboration work. We can talk through each of these for another illustration of key data entities within locations where the data is stored. It's important to know that when you talk about security and compliance within Microsoft Teams, you got to know where the data is stored. So for messaging, that message for one-on-one chat and group chat, it's ingested in an Exchange to enable compliance for that messaging. For the images, is also ingested in Exchange. If you add an image to a chat or a group chat, it goes through an Exchange for compliance purposes. All files that you share within Microsoft Teams get stored in SharePoint or OneDrive. That's also for a compliance enabling compliance capabilities. Any voicemails that you leave, they get stored in the individual mailbox in Exchange. Meeting recordings also get stored in SharePoint, OneDrive, or if you choose to use the Azure Media Services, you can as well. Calendar meetings are in the individual mailbox for that team, and then also contacts are stored in Exchange, and then the telemetry is also stored into that Microsoft data warehouse. So another good illustration to look at for Teams architecture is you start with Microsoft Teams and you go into the chat service, and it has an Office 365 service that goes either to email for Exchange see for email, one-on-one chats, group chats, channel messages, and then also for SharePoint files. Notice here, it's all based on security compliance. So things like e-discovery, legal hold compliance, content search, archiving, retention, audit logs. This is really important to understand when you deal with teams, because of the fact that you're starting to share more information externally. You have to understand the architecture to be able to either set it up so you can protect your data, or if you're a user every day, there's some data protection behind the scenes that work for you and to help prevent data leakage. So let's get into the types of channels. Again, a channel is a shared common topic. You create a channel for different topics, different subjects within a team. There are various different types of channels. Share channels, this is the open collaboration within a team. When you add a member to a team, they automatically get access to those share channels. So it inherits the full membership list from the team. A general channel is that it's there, you can't change it. It's that default channel that comes with every team. This is something that folks use for that general communication for that team, but they also create different channels, shared channels to help with organizing different types of the components of the team. You can also have private channels. They're very focused. They have a focused private collaboration within the team. This is a managed subset of members from the team. So in order for you to add someone to a private channel, they have to be a member of the team. So what that means, they get to see all of the other standard channels and then any private channels that come with creation of the team when a team owner creates that private channel. If the member of one private channel, if they don't have access to another private channel, they will not be able to see it in Teams in the directory list as shown in the image. Notice they have access to budget, they have access to strategy. They might not have access to another private channel. That's why it doesn't show up for them. So, and then also just to let you guys know, default owners of the team can also be left off of private channels. That's one of the things that if you really want that privacy of only one owner or a few owners, you can do that as well with private channels. So introducing the the shared channels. Shared channels are very flexible within the organization or across teams or across other orgs. So keep in mind that shared channels is not just for the external user. The shared channel can be shared internally, preventing access to those internal members or external members to the entire team. So what that means, as you can see this illustration here, in Contoso Marketing, they have these 3 channels. If you add a member to the Contoso Marketing team, they naturally have access to all of the share channels. Well, with the, all of the standard channels, with share channels, you can give them only access to that share channel. So they only see content in that share channel and no other channel within Teams for that specific team itself. So there's some benefits and goals to the share channels, and we're going to talk about those here shortly. I think this is, again, it's a managed set of individuals within or outside your team or outside your organization as well. So the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk about shared channels a little bit more in depth, what team owners can do, what those different types of options are. So some of the goals for share channels is really around the elimination of need for tenant switching. What that means is if I'm in Microsoft Teams, I don't have to change my tenant up where my name is in the top right-hand corner in order for me to see share channels. They will show up within my Microsoft, the same Microsoft Teams client that I am being shared with. So that's a really nice way. This display, the Teams client displays share channel along with Teams and channels from our home tenant, and then also shows shared channels from other outside the organization shared channels. Even if you have an internal shared channel, you can still see the team name and then within that shared channel in the directory of teams. This also helps reduce oversharing. Instead of making someone a guest member in your tenant and giving them access to all the resources owned by that team, you invite them and share the channel, which also provides limited access just to the resources that that person needs and not everything within that team. This also helps reduce the team redundant growth. What that is, redundant growth creates more groups and more teams and more sites. A shared channel creates a collaborative space within a team to avoid that. A lot of times when we have to start a new team because we have to add one person, which it makes it very difficult to keep up with those different teams. So the shared channels help reduce that redundancy of growth within teams, and it helps reduce sprawls as well. Private channels do the same, but because it only adds a subset of the members of that team, shared channels are more flexible, adding more than that. Let's talk about the team owners. Team owners are always in control of the shared channels. Just like I mentioned earlier, private channels, not all the team owners can manage those, but with shared channels, team owners are always in control. So only team owners can create shared channels. Team owners can see the name and description of all shared channels in a team without being a team member. Team members can delete team owners can delete shared channels without being a member. Only team owners can accept share team invites. What that means is a user can share the invite of a shared channel, but the team owner is the only one that can accept the addition of that membership to that shared channel. Also, team owners can terminate sharing relationships with shared channels from other teams, and then also shared channels inherit labels from team on creation, which is a really nice feature there. Channel owners are empowered. Only in-tenant members can be channel owners. So that means if I have to be a tenant user. If I'm an external user in a shared channel, I cannot be an owner. Removing a member from the team does not remove them from the shared channel. This is a caveat. This is a gotcha. So if I remove a team member from a team and they had access to 4 or 5 shared channels, that access will remain. So you're going to have to go to each of those shared channels to remove them as of today. And then also the last owner of a shared channel cannot be removed from the team. What that means that prevents the orphaned team per se. That way there's always an owner as part of those shared channels. If a shared channel becomes ownerless, user leaves the company. An existing tenant channel member is auto promoted. I can't tell you the algorithm for that, but that is probably I'm taking a guess here on it could be the how much a user is active in that channel. So the most active channel member will be auto promoted to a channel owner, so that way that channel does not get orphaned. And then also channel owners can override default channel settings, inherit it from the team. So as a team's owner, you can empower the channel owners to really manage their channel without affecting your entire team setting. So this is really nice. So the next couple slides, we're going to go over some additional channel features I think that will be beneficial from a shared channel perspective. So one of the features is you can share and co-author files just like we do in Microsoft Teams. You can do that with external members. External users can seamlessly access these files that are shared within that channel, and you can co-author. So now with external users, you don't have to go and create a separate team. to collaborate and co-author on files, you can do that within a shared channel. You can meet with your team directly. Shared channels support Meet Now and scheduled meetings. By default, channel members are not added to that meeting. Only host tenant users will be able to start the Meet Now or schedule a meeting. External members can join an ongoing Meet Now meeting and join a scheduled meeting. So you can meet directly with those external channel members, but they can't do anything until that meeting is started. You can also collaborate on apps in real time. So shared channel support, tabs and connectors, support for bots, message extensions. A lot of business apps are in the works. There's some SDK available in developer preview for apps. Apps must be installed in the team before they can be used in a shared channel. And certain Office 365 group connected apps, such as Planner, those are coming later. So as of today with shared channels, you can't use Planner as a Planner in the tabs, but that is coming later in Microsoft Teams shared channels. Now, we could talk all day about security compliance capabilities, but again, the teams are still discoverable from a SharePoint site for team channels. For shared channels, it's a separate site collection, just like a private channel. So every shared channel will get its own site collection in SharePoint. Legal hold is applied to shared channels. Only host tenant members can be put on legal hold. You can't put external members on legal hold. There are some information barriers that can be applied. It only applies to host tenant members. Retention and DLP policies can be applied in shared channels. Monitoring and auditing is applied in shared channels. And then coming soon, access reviews will be held for shared channels as well. So if you're using B2B connected users, or if you're using the Azure Active Directory group access reviews, you can do that for shared channels. And then also later on, communication compliance will be supported on shared channels as well. There are some limitations, as everything in Microsoft Teams and in the Microsoft ecosystem, but you can collaborate with as many organizations as you need. Here's some numbers to think about. So number of members in a team is 25,000. Number of shared channels per team is 200. This includes deleted channels. So if there are deleted channels within that team from a shared channel perspective, that is included. There's number of teams a channel can be shared with is 50, and then number of members in a shared channel, which is 5,000 direct, and then including up to 50 teams and all members. So just keep that in mind. And then also number of organization limits will be managed by B2B Direct Connect, which is an Azure Active Directory cross-tenant access policy configuration. I have some slides on external collaboration that kind of shows you how it works from a technical level. We're going to go through a couple of them, not all of them, for the sake of time. We are going to talk about external collaboration and how that works. There's a difference between external collaboration and guest. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means and how you can look at some of the Azure Active Directory features that are used for shared channels and Teams Connect. Firstly, you have to understand the features of Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory is a Microsoft Azure cloud-based identity and access management services. So this is how you actually get your username and those different types of things. There are some features in Azure AD you can look at. Authentication. This is employees sign in to access resources. There's a single sign-on component, and there are also what we call Azure AD business to business or B2B. You're going to hear that a lot with Teams Connect because it's a requirement. There's also a couple other ones that we'll talk about from a requirement if you want to connect tenants externally. So understanding that you have an Azure AD is can be, this is our Contoso or your organization name. It has identities that you use to sign into the Microsoft services. So working with external users in Microsoft Teams, you have to understand, we're going to define external users, which user A is a member in your organization, right? You have an organization. This is your org. This is also another name for this is a tenant. You're going to hear that a lot in Teams Connect. User B might be a business account, which that means there's is an Azure AD account in another tenant. So as you can see here, we're partnering with another tenant. We allow an external connection. That's going to be called a business account. And then you have a user C, which is a consumer account, which could be, your Outlook, your Gmail, and if you still use AOL.com, it's still out there. So you can these are external facing entities. And then anonymous, if you use anonymous, that user D would be kind of an anonymous scenario. So these are the different types of external users that you can allow within your organization to access Teams and other Office 365 services. So external access is called federation. This enables access permissions to an entire external domain. So if we're contoso.com and we want to allow abccompany.com to all the users to access certain resources, we can federate with that tenant. This allows you to find users, chat with users, call with users, and set up meetings with users within two organizations. As you can see here, user A is from one organization, user B is from another organization, and they can find each other through team search and call and chat and set up meetings, just like they were part of the organization. Guest access are added to your organization's Azure AD as what we call B2B users, and they must sign into Teams using their guest account they were shared with, depending on your configuration. This means they would have to sign out of their organization's account and sign into yours. This is where that tenant switching comes into play. When you switch tenants, so when I want to sign in or speak to someone in another tenant or join a team, I might have to sign out of my tenant to go into this other tenant. One of the benefits of Teams Connect is it will prevent you from signing out into your tenant into another tenant. So guest access gives access permission to an individual, one specific user. This allows them to chat, participate in teams and channels, and this is kind of what the architecture looks like. As you can see here, you can invite other Microsoft or other tenants as a guest in your organization. Just see it here. Those guests get added to your Azure AD tenant, and then they are labeled as guest in your organization. If you look at next to this illustration, there is a parentheses with guest. That's what it looks like in your tenant, so you know you're sharing information with a guest. B2B Direct Connect is a power behind shared channels. This enables the external collaboration on shared channels. It's a new way to collaborate with people from other organizations. You can search for people within other organizations using their email address. This is how you share apps and other resources with people from other orgs without adding them to your directory as guests. Then also external users can access Teams shared channels without having to switch orgs or sign in with different account. This is how the tenant switching, they use the B2B Direct Connect component to switch tenants. And then also people from other Active Directory organizations, Azure Active Directory organizations can be identified using the external annotation instead of that guest. As you see here, the shared next to all the shared channels that the B2B Direct Connect shows it's shared externally, and then the users will have an external annotation next to their name, so you know that they're external outside of the organization. There are some granular controls for Teams admin. again, Microsoft Teams has its own policies, so keep in mind that those policies are applicable to shared channels as well. So Teams admins can enable or disable share channels. As you can see here, there is a per user policy who can initiate and accept external sharing. You can manage channel life cycles or create on behalf, update and delete. There's some settings around managing members, add or remove, promote, demote, external access settings, calls, chats, and meetings. And then also there is PowerShell and API support. To look at a summary, Microsoft Teams Connect is built for seamless collaboration with internal and external partners. It has a rich set of governance compliance settings, as long with the management capabilities. Sharing with external users is off by default with controls for sharing with selected tenants. So you do have you can turn it on with selected tenants. Host tenants and team policies apply to all channel members. There's no change to standard or private channel behavior. And then currently in private preview, shared channels is coming to public preview this month. If you want to follow shared channels or Team Connect on the roadmap, if you go to do a search for Microsoft 365 roadmap, this is the actual feature ID. And as you can see here in this image, that the public preview starts in March 2022, and it gives you some release timelines, which cloud instances that it will be deployed to. As you can see here right now, it's worldwide standard multi-tenants. The other tenants come into play, GCC, GCC High, DoD, those other tenants come into play as well soon. So if you wanted to follow that, you can follow that. And then I just want to say thank you for having me at Tech Day Pakistan. We appreciate all the support and appreciate all the organizers, sponsors, the folks that are moderating. It takes a lot to run a conference. I run an annual conference every year and every month. And I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for being part of this and making this happen for everyone to be able to learn and to enjoy these sessions.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Yeah, really extensive session there with on Teams. I wonder like how more what we can do with Microsoft Teams and the integrations that it has with third parties. So it's quite interesting, quite a session. And yeah, I also wonder like how it would integrate with LinkedIn and how what would be the possibilities if that could happen. So
yeah,
that
so
would be interesting.
So LinkedIn is actually coming. The integration to LinkedIn and Teams is coming. Right now, we can see LinkedIn in our profile cards and Outlook. That integration is coming to Teams. I wrote a blog recently about that. That is coming to Teams. I think it's supposed to be coming this month. It might be delayed. I'm not 100% sure. There was a question in the chat. I don't know if we want to address that question, but I think the answer is pretty straightforward. The question is, do we have to create a new tenant in Azure AD for allowing access to our consumers and customers for B2C? Creating a new tenant, it would create a whole nother Azure AD, so you do not have to create a new tenant for allowing access for B2C or B2B. That's all handled through the same tenant.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much, Johnny. Thanks for being with us at this session. And yeah, it's really nice to know what are the possibilities with Microsoft Teams and with the other application, the ecosystem as well. So yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, hope to see you in more sort of Pakistan Day related conference or the region as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye now.